Broadcasting live from inside the power band, this is The Blah. In this episode, everybody dies. I'm your host, Mulvey, along with my super friends, Jar Higo.
Yo.
And Chad.
Yo.
Folks, welcome to the podcast. This week, we are finally completing our odyssey of the Expanse. I feel like we've been living and breathing this show for ever and ever and ever.
Months.
I certainly do. I certainly have.
Let the spice flow.
Yes, let the spice flow. So last week, due to scheduling constraints, conflicts, and so forth, we had a interesting offering in Season 3. We were supposed to do Season 3 and 4 together, but we ended up only doing Season 3. This week, we're going to tackle Season 4. Let's get into it.
Space Westerns. Mandalorian Season 2, a.k.a. The Expanse.
All right, I'm going to just jump right off of that because we're going to just kind of go out of order. This season, one of the most redeeming things of it, in my opinion, because I wasn't 100% nuts about it, was there was a very Western element to the time spent on New Terra. It has another name as well. I can't remember what it is.
Illis.
Illis? So the time spent on Illis, Holden, Murtry, it's there's a lot of Western element there. There's a straight up showdown in the desert between two guys, a lot of the stuff that happens in the camp. It's very cool. And I really liked that a lot, you know?
Yeah, it was interesting.
I mean, not anything new, you know? Nothing earth-shattering there, making, you know, space western, whatever. Like one of you just said, we covered The Mandalorian. That's a space western. But I did like that element, that how they wove that in there.
Can't get enough of those space westerns, cowboy.
That's right.
It kind of makes sense to go space western considering the frontier that was opened at the end of the last season with all the gates.
Absolutely.
I mean, you could argue it was a bit too obvious, but it's still, you know, it makes sense. It makes sense to go there.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I didn't see it coming, for whatever that's worth. But, you know, when it started happening, I was kind of like, oh, this is cool.
And you mentioned last week that, you know, Season 3 was kind of a departure for you from the kind of threads of Season 1 and 2. And I felt like even more so, Season 4 was quite a departure from kind of the first major arc of the story. So I don't know, in a way, it's almost like Season 4 isn't filler, but like it's like a mini-sode between major arcs or whatever, you know?
That's how I felt, though, Chad. I was just thinking about that, actually, downstairs before we started was, you know, this is just kind of pushing the overall story along this season. You know, it didn't wow me like the first 2.5 seasons. And even the beginning of Season 3, I was like, man, you know, like I said it was jarring, but it was still very cool. It was like, you know, it was jarring just because it was such a left turn and because there was so much information, new information. But it was still very cool. The end of Season 3. You know, this is, again, kind of filler. Benny, what do you think about that?
I don't know. That's a lot to respond to. You were kind of linking Season 3 to Season 4 there a bunch.
Yes.
Yes.
You can always choose to not respond.
Do you see it as like a common thread through, like a common through line for the 4, or do they kind of jump around a bit? Or
A common through line? What do you mean?
Well, I suppose like you get Season 1, which is essentially intro. Season 2, which is the result of Season 1. And then Season 3 is where it all goes to shit. And then Season 4 is like New Frontiers, you know? So kind of the New Frontiersiness of it makes sense. Like it makes sense if, you know, 1,300 rings open up, the next logical thing is go explore one of them. But it's quite different than the like multi-headed hydra of the previous 3 kind of seasons all coming together in a way.
Absolutely. It's like a fresh start almost. It's a new beginning.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
You're starting from base again. And I think, you know, I've heard a lot of criticisms of Season 4 because, you know, a lot of it's just taking place on Illis and it's not as large of a scope and it's kind of more I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. It's a little more broken down and simple rather than
Basic.
high level and epic. Yeah, it's a little more basic. But personally, I really enjoyed all of the little story arcs in this one. Like, despite the fact that they weren't traveling a lot of different places and there wasn't, there was a whole lot going on, despite the fact that we weren't traveling all around the solar system.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's funny because it's my least favorite book out of all the books, but it's definitely, I think, the strongest season of the show. Maybe just in the sense of the production value and stuff, but like I kind of liked the, I don't know, for lack of a better term, the kind of intimate setting. Like it's one planet versus, like you said, the whole solar system. It gives the existing characters that you know and love a chance to kind of explore new territory, I suppose.
Chad, I think you're onto something there with, I feel like also what the show has going for it at this point is the fact that in season 4, the whole cast seems to be really getting their gelling going on. And, in general, like momentum has picked up and the show is just, everybody involved, I think, is well warmed up and primed and ready to go at this point. So I think we're getting a lot of that, just besides what the story is. Yeah.
Yeah, not to mention they're probably pumped that they have jobs, considering that there was a question for a while there. So they'd be even throwing themselves more into it, maybe.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's interesting in a way, because thinking about it now, the books are quite different, and it seems like the showrunners really wanted to capitalize on that gelling of the cast and gelling of the crew, because Naomi and Alex stay in orbit for the whole season. She never touches down and stuff, which is, it's not like a super critical thing or anything, but like choosing to have all 4 of them get off the Rossi on land, like, would indicate pretty strongly to me that they wanted exactly that feeling of gelled intimacy and the crew kind of exploring new territory. So yeah, I think it's certainly a likely scenario that was a big focus for them.
Interesting. So you're saying Alex and Naomi did not leave the ship in the book?
I mean, they might have come down and landed and like jumped off the ship for 5 minutes, but like they went back up into orbit, and the whole Barba Pickle Rick gonna fucking explode thing was Naomi and Alex handling it, and she doesn't like go down and get sick and have all those drugs and stuff.
Right. It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't the locus of like all these story points and creating all these like situations and conflict. Right.
But it's not like a critical, like, I can't believe they changed it kind of thing. It's just kind of, I think, indicates that they clearly wanted the 4 of them, the gang to go the gang to take the mystery machine down and have a look at the spooky planet.
Zoiks, Scoob.
Zoiks.
Totally.
It's like a freaky more proto molecule.
We were just talking about Frank Welker in the Nausicaa episode.
Yep. Who is he, Fred?
Now let's see who you really are. Yeah, he was Freddy.
They pull Murtry's mask off, and it's, Clarissa Mao or something.
What? No, it's Duncan Gola.
Duncan Gola. I loved Alex's, like, yeah, I don't know, Murphy said something. He just kept like making up names for Murtry. I cracked up every time he did that.
Yeah, him and Amos kept getting his name wrong.
Isn't that what? Oh, sorry, Amos is what I meant to say.
Yeah. No, that was good.
He just kept fucking making up funny names for him. It's like, we're gonna run into each other. There's like, I'm free now. You wanna go now?
Yeah, he said, I think you and I are gonna get bloody.
Fucking Amos, dude, I love that guy.
Let's take a slight diversion and talk about Bern Gorman for a second, because Chad and I talked about him for a minute the other night. Bern Gorman is the actor that plays Murtry, and you may recognize him as the Marshal from The Man in the High Castle.
The Marshal? Which Marshal?
Yeah, the Marshal in the Neutral Zone.
Oh, interesting.
In the mountains in Colorado. So there's I guess it's, what is it, Denver in The Man in the High Castle?
I think it is, yeah.
Where they end up a couple of times, and it's just sort of like the Wild West there. The Nazis don't have a foothold there. The Japanese don't have a foothold there. And there's a guy that kind of runs the town. He's really like a bounty hunter, but he calls himself the Marshal. And it's Bern Gorman. And he's even more wicked in that than he is in this, and he's so good. I mean, it's so memorable, man. He was burned into my memory when I saw that. And
Yeah, right.
of course, when I saw him at the beginning of season 4 here, I was like, where do I know that face from? And it was the Marshal from Man in the High Castle.
Yeah, I didn't make that connection. I recognize him. He was in Batman, one of the Batman trilogies, wasn't he?
Yeah, Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, sorry, it wasn't you, Chad. It was Benny when we were talking after the show last week when I was up with him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, I don't remember that, but yeah, cool.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right.
But yeah, Burn Gorman, wicked dude, and a terrific actor.
Yeah, he brought a lot to the table, man. He's quite a flat character in the novels, so fucking kudos.
In terms of what?
It's just kind of like cardboard antagonist bullshit, as opposed to fleshed out like he is in the show. Like, he really brought a lot of three-dimensionality to the character by, acting it exceptionally, as opposed to just being like, I'm an angry random dude that's gonna shoot people in the street and make Holden mad over and over again,
Gravitas.
Yeah, exactly.
Gravitas. I think what you're saying. Can I try to just sum up what you just said, Chad? Are you saying?
Yeah, tell me what I
that
said.
he brought. No. I'm gonna just try to tighten that up a little bit. Were you saying that he brought a lot of three-dimensionality to an otherwise flat, sort of cookie-cutter character?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. I agree, man. Definitely. I mean, that was like a pretty plain.
I should cut everything I said and just have it cut straight to you being like, I'm just going to summarize what you just said, because it'd be really fucking funny.
This episode is about us summarizing Chad's work. No, I think that you're right. It's a very straightforward, flat, nothing special there. Like, we've seen this sort of villain before, and he really just brings a lot of nuance to it that's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, it's still somewhat of a simple character arc for him, but yeah, just one well placed smirk, and you're like, okay, I don't mind this so much.
Yeah, exactly. But I did like how Amos had him pegged sort of from the beginning, and he's like, when you grease that guy, your dick got hard. You're a killer. Like, I was like, that was the same scene where he's like, I think you and I are going to get bloody, my friend. And he's like, how about right now? I ain't got nothing to do.
Oh, Amos.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Dexter going on there, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, good call.
Ooh, yes, nice call.
Amos kind of senses the other sociopaths and has a desire to, because of his association with the goodness of the crew of the Rocinante, wants to take them down for the betterment of everyone. But to satisfy his own sociopathic needs.
That was a good show.
It was good. I watched the whole thing and I loved it.
It went off the fucking rails for me, but it was a good show.
It definitely went off the rails.
Yeah.
The Lithgow season was the last good season that I enjoyed, and then I just kind of gave up on it.
Same here. And even then, I was like, the anxiety of like him getting caught was starting to. I was like,
chew away at you.
It wasn't working anymore. I was like, okay, how's he going to get through this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jarhigo. I think Jarhigo's skin was like self-peeling watching that anxiety-ridden shit. It was like so anxiety-ridden, man. I mean, I really enjoyed the Keith Carradine stuff. I'm a big fan of his. So, and the Lithgow season was really good too. But the end when he's like, sitting at the table in the cabin as Pierre Briere, I was just like, what the actual,
So is Murtry John Lithgow in this analogy, Benny?
Yes, correct.
I like it. Yeah, that works for me, man. Yeah, the fact that they have each other pegged the whole time is good. And what's Amos's girlfriend's name?
Oh shit,
Way. I think it's Way. Yeah, I think having the two of them paired up and seeing through each other's bullshit, and then having Way get between them was the only thing that kind of made it really work. If it was just the two of them, and then Holden being a grumpy fuck about it too, and being like super Western with three dudes, it would have been just kind of meh. But the fact that, Murtry's right-hand person, Way, is shacking up with Amos makes it way more interesting.
Way more.
Is that a pun?
Oh my God, I didn't even notice.
Oh my God. That went right over my head.
I thought this was what you were doing. Sorry.
No, it was not intended.
It's a good one, though.
So we're stuck on a planet. They blow up a fucking ship, and then it's kind of like us versus them and the Rocinante crew in between. What was the kind of general feeling about the way that was unfolding? It's like kind of like a microcosm of the overall story.
It is, but with no Martians.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you got Alex making lasagna and the
But,
ship up top, but
oh, Chad, don't start talking about lasagna.
you know 5 people that were like, dude, enough with the lasagna last week, just pause the podcast. So they don't even hear us talking about him right now.
That's right, Drew. Wake up and smell the rock and roll coffee. I've made us a frittata in my all edges lasagna pan. That's right.
Oh, Chad, you never know what's going to happen if we get into a cul-de-sac lasagna. We might lose all our listeners.
Yeah, I'm listening to you.
I'm listening to you, man.
No matter what, worst case scenario, we've got 3 listeners.
I like it. He should come up with we should come up with the Alex lasagna pan cookbook, Ben. That's got like the frittata, the lasagna,
Brownies.
some. Oh my God.
And be careful, because those are special brownies, if you know what I mean.
Hey, they got I put gravity drugs in them.
No, you put juice in them. Give me the juice.
Give me the juice.
They're all edges, and they'll put you right over the edge.
Oh my God, dude! What the hell?
Jesus Christ, dude.
Man, you are that mind of yours is like on fire this morning.
I like it.
Love it, man. Hey, have you tried my all edges brownie recipe? Straight from the Marina Valley.
Hi, I'm Pilot Alex Kamal from the Rocinante. Have you tried my all edges brownies? They're out of this world.
But I'm not here to talk about the Rocinante today. I'm here to talk about my new cookbook.
Cooking with Kamal.
Cooking with Kamal, yeah.
That's cooking with a K, folks.
That's cooking with a K. From my ranch in the Marina Valley all the way to your kitchen table.
I love that this just has to play out. There's no way around
it. It really does. There's zero other direction.
We can't stop ourselves. All right, anyways.
And don't forget, folks, it's great for brownies, too. All right, God, let's get the hell out. This is not we need a new level for, like, the cul-de-sac. Like, I think there's, like, the cul-de-sac, and then there's, like, when we get stuck in somebody's driveway in the cul-de-sac, and then there's, like, when we're, like, out of the car in the woods behind the cul-de-sac or something, man. Like,
There's definitely, like, the oubliette level of...
Oh, there you go. We're down in the storm drain like it.
Yeah.
Good use of oubliette, Ben. I love it.
Where were we when we got on the lasagna pan tip?
I don't think we were anywhere.
Chad was sort of setting up a high-level description of the story at large.
Was I?
And then we kind of didn't touch it.
Yeah.
Deeper cul-de-sacs. Done.
I wasn't super pumped on the Belters, man. Like, the Belters on a planet kind of didn't fit for me.
No.
A bunch of weird, like, Tetris tattooed neck people. Just kind of seemed really weird.
Yeah, the Tetris tattoos, and I just, in general, I'm really just not, I'm over the Belters in general.
See, I like the Belters, but I'm feeling the kind of, like, the factionalism of the last couple of seasons would have probably turned you off a fair bit. I think you mentioned that last week.
I did, and I don't want to, like, go nuts about that again, but, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just, it's always the same thing, man. I mean, I said this last week, so I don't really need to say it again, but it's just pour me this, and, you know, what about me and us, and what about our stuff? It's like, do something, dude. Just sitting on your ass all day making more Tetris tattoos. It's like, you can be out trying to make some cake, dude.
And that's, I guess, what these guys are doing, you know? So it's less, my problem is less with the Belters in general and more with, like, it's easy to imagine Belters on a planet and wanting to, you know, claim something for themselves and get out from under the boot and, you know, mine lithium and all the stuff that they're doing in this season. Like, I get that. I guess, like, it's not even a complaint, but like the thing that was just kind of weird to me is I feel like the, Belter Patois, Tetris Tattoo, dirty, burnt face sea shanty captains, like you said, Ben, last week, fits on a station or in a ship, but it kind of looks weird on a planet. And so just kind of like, huh.
Yeah, it should look weird though, right? It's not like the culture is going to change like overnight, and
Yeah, that's fair.
jumping back to like the Belters sort of being the like the eternal victim, like there's always an issue of the Belters victimhood going on, and I think that's really, maybe it's just poor framing by the writers, like that this kind of thing keeps happening. And I think it's interesting seeing them on a planet, and yeah, it does seem a little ill-fitting at the moment, but as I said, culture doesn't change overnight. And I mean, hell, what's wrong with a bunch of nested hexagons on your neck? I mean, it's okay.
Yeah. The Belters are certainly seem to me to be a bit of an allegory for, the underprivileged. It's pretty freaking obvious.
Duh.
And they're like, Earthers are super privileged and waste their time.
If anything, in this season, you're getting to see some Belters, trying to get a foothold.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, they're trying to get a foothold, and they feel like, they zoom through the ring and set up shop, and then all of a sudden Mercury comes in and starts fucking shooting people. So it's fair enough. I guess they didn't fight their corner as strongly as maybe I would have liked.
Thank you. I think that may be what my problem is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're led to believe that they need the assistance of the Rocinante crew, or they never would have pulled it off on their own. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that might be. It's not it's not a frustration. It's just kind of an interesting, point of friction where the savior has to fly in and save the day.
You guys are gonna hate me for this, but I have a comparison to draw.
Do it.
Avatar.
Totally.
And someone just dropped the piano on me.
Tatanka.
Yeah, I'm not. That was really good. I laughed. What are you talking about? That was funny.
I think didn't we have a rule where mentioning Avatar got you an instant death?
Oh yeah, that's definitely a death. Yeah. I remember there was an episode a while ago where I brought up Avatar, and the two of you just got out like knives and started butchering me to death. Like it was funny too, man.
Yeah, that was the one where I kept interrupting you by saying Tatanka. That was fucking hilarious.
Yes, that is correct. That is the one.
I had a great time making you really mad on that one.
I had a great time ruining that 5-minute period of your life. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, it does have that like, oh, poor Belter, let's go save the day thing.
It does, but I'm also sitting here thinking about it while we're talking, and yeah, they don't fight enough. They don't fight hard enough from their corner, and it's just like they don't use their brains, and it bugs me. But at the same time, it's like, there's Mercury and co, and they're like, hey, now that we're down on the planet, remember how like when we were in the asteroid belt and you guys used to like, mine a bunch of shit and then we just come and take it and pay you very little? Yeah, we're going to do that again.
Yeah. What are you going to do about it?
Like it's going to feel worse though. You know what I mean? Like, and they're just like, let's beat somebody up. It's like, come on, man. I don't know.
The blowing up of the landing pad is an interesting reaction to them coming in, but that's kind of where the pushback kind of fizzles, Then it's just like the mayor lady just kind of trying to keep everyone calm while Mercury just runs around consolidating power.
In her self-crafted gypsy wear? Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And then like everyone pretending that it didn't happen. Like if you're gonna blow somebody up, wouldn't you finish the job?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then on top of that, like, the gypsy leader woman, then when all is said and done and all of this shit starts to happen during the course of the season, she's just like, we're staying. You can't make us leave. We're staying. This is our thing, and damn it, we're going to have it. It's like, are you really going to be that dumb now and stay on the planet that is most surely going to kill you?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, come on, man.
I suppose that is a missing piece. Like, well, it's not a missing piece, but they don't push it hard, which is that all of the Belters that are on the surface essentially are Ganymede refugees. So they're refugees from the failing of the Ganymede station where Prax and Bobby, encounter the hybrids and the whole system falls apart. So, like, from that perspective, like, you could kind of understand them being so shell-shocked from having their previous home just blown up that they might not even believe that this one was going to, but they don't really push it too hard.
It certainly happens in real life. People refuse to evacuate from areas that are,
Yeah.
Earthquakes or tsunamis or whatever. What have you? What existential crisis have you? People don't leave. People just stay.
No, you're right. You're right, Ben. They don't. They're like, this is they get like that's their home, and they're going to stay with their home and die with their home. And I get that. I mean,
We've got our own proto-molecule thing going on right now with this coronavirus thing. I think we're seeing plenty of people being like, yeah, whatever.
yeah. And now we're on to the coronavirus.
We don't need to go into the coronavirus.
Yeah, let's not. I've had too many conversations about that in the last few days. What I was going to respond to was, Chad, your comment about how they didn't push it hard enough that they were not only Ganymede refugees, but they had waited at the ring for weeks or months and could not get passage through the ring. Like that was the whole, like in the very beginning of the season, that was the whole part of the whole, beginning of the story on what is it? Illos, whatever. Illis was the,
Licensed to Illis.
Oh,
oh my God. Nice one, dude.
was that a really subtle reference to the sabotage of the landing pad?
Oh my God. No.
No, but
Wow.
I wish
No.
I was that clever.
I wish I was too, man.
I'm just going to pretend that it was.
That was damn good. No, I think that like they didn't accentuate that point hard enough that they were, refugees from Ganymede and they were waiting at the ring gate for weeks or months, and to the point that they basically were like, we're going to die if you don't let us go through the gate or dock somewhere. So we're going through the ring.
Right.
So shoot us if you want. And like the whole ship, like they're all sitting there on the floor. Like, I mean, they looked like refugees and they all voted like, go, go, go. And they all start chanting it. You know what I mean? And they didn't, I don't know what it was about that. That got very quickly forgotten by me.
Yeah, me too.
When I watched it the first run through, sort of a shame.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
But it's important because it sets the stage for a lot of the motivation behind what happens, with the gypsies. Sorry, on Illis. And that woman. I can hear her in my head, and I don't know if I can do a serviceable impression.
Nah, she was weird.
She was totally weird. She's like, "This is our home, and we're not going to leave our home, and you can't make us leave our home."
But have some of me Lucky Charms.
Yeah, so the soul of a leprechaun jumped into her then.
No, that's not what I was going for, man. But I thought it sounded more like a Nordic in some way.
If you want, bro.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever you want, man.
Hey, talk about your deaths. Wow.
Yeah, whatever will help us change the subject, I agree.
Yeah.
I'll do anything to not hear you do that again.
That was a full-blown, shotgun to the face death.
No, that was a self-destruct. So there you have it, folks. When bad impressions kill us in this episode, everybody dies.
The more you know.
So yeah, I think we've played out the Belter thing here, right?
Oh, I forgot, Ben. 2-year time jump.
Yes.
Between seasons 3 and 4.
That would make sense, being that it takes time to travel through the ring and set up a colony, and it takes time for news to get back, and
all that jazz.
For Avasarala to send the crew of the Rossi through the ring as well. That would make sense.
Was the Avasarala election bullshit in season 4? I can't remember. It's smearing together for me.
Yeah.
Okay. That was dumb.
Versus, who is her former aide?
Nancy Gao.
Nancy Gao to my ready room.
I definitely got to throw out a tear, or shed a bit of a tear for the Avasarala's husband recasting. I really liked him in the first season.
Yeah, I was confused by that. Upon the rewatching, I was like, wait a minute, is this her husband, or is this like some other relative? Like,
yeah. I think it was a scheduling issue. I don't even think it was bad blood or anything, which is kind of a shame, But
right. Yeah, well, I mean, they're both. I like them both, but
yeah.
I missed the memo on it, and thus I was slightly confused on this last watching. Like I had forgotten that I forgot that there was a different actor playing him in the. Is it just the first season?
I think so.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Well, I completely missed that. I didn't even realize that until you just brought it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Her husband in seasons 3 and 4 is like quite a bit younger and more fiery and stuff. Like I believe her husband in the first season is quite, he's like a poet or like an academic and like kind of a softie, and she relies on him for, strength and love and stuff, whereas he's like a campaign helper in this one. So it's just kind of a bit of a weird one, but oh well.
No, that's not right. I mean, he is an academic, and we see that in season 4 when she walks into his classroom at one point.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
but so it's kind of all those things, Chad. He is the academic. He is the sort of artiste and the dreamer and all that sort of thing, and he is part of the campaign. Because they say it numerous times in the course of the season that he wanted to be part of it, and he does. He plays that yin to her yang, or yang to her yin, whichever.
Mm. It almost seems like he was there to try and keep her on the rails, because it seemed to me at the end there that he's, they kind of go their separate ways, and it seems like he's quite upset with, what she's done to try and maintain her position.
It doesn't seem like, I don't think they go their separate ways, but he's definitely disappointed in her, for sure.
Oh, he just nopes out, I guess, when she says she's going to go to Luna or something. I don't think it was a separation per se, other than I'll catch up with you later kind of thing.
Right, yeah. I didn't mean to imply that they were giving up on the relationship, but rather they were,
yeah,
taking a little break.
Yeah, exactly. I did. There was a bit in the beginning of episode 2, season 4, where she gets the message from Holden, and then she walks out of the office, and she's on that super cool shuttle that she has, UN-1 or whatever it is, with the folding wings. And I really liked that entire sequence of her talking on the ship, and then and she's talking to Arjun, her husband, on the ship, and then they pull out, and they're above what I'm almost positive is it is Mars. And they're commenting on various different things about Mars. And it was just a really great sequence, beautifully shot, great cinematography. And of course, one thing that I wanted to reiterate from season 1 and 2 is just the attention to detail in this show. It's incredible. And that scene very much encapsulates that. And what was great about that scene, too, was they're looking at the Aurora Borealis on Mars. And he says, "I never thought I'd see the Aurora Borealis on Mars." And I think she says, "That's what you get when you build a magnetosphere."
Mm.
And he says, "There's generational building going on." He's like, "I'm so impressed with, how generations of Martians are working to make this planet habitable." And he says, "It reminds me of the old, generational building on Earth of the Gothic cathedrals." It's like people would start knowing that their grandchildren would be the ones to lay the final brick. And it was interesting that he brought that up, because right in that episode, and the through line for this entire season, is that exact concept of Mars is going away. And we see that through the eyes of Bobby and the black market and all the vets being unemployed and all of that stuff. So really, it was a really great scene, and I just thought it was a cool concept, cool talking point. It's like that whole idea of let's build it together that was so impressive that you got out of seasons 1 and 2 from the Martians is just, it's starting to erode, or change, or whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
Yeah, well, yeah, pivoting on that idea, it doesn't make sense to take hundreds of years to terraform a planet when you can just get a new one through a ring.
Yeah.
I don't know, Ben. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that, like, yeah, sure, you could just go get a new planet, but at the same time, it's like, well, you could keep this planet and keep terraforming it, because this is what we want to see. This is the goal. This is the dream. You know what I mean? Like, let's see it through.
What I'm saying is I think that the prevailing idea on Mars at the time is, why are we doing this when we can just go get a new planet? And that's why things are sort of fucked up on Mars, and the economy is collapsing, and people are stealing shit for the black market. And, that Martian strength of will to get something done as a team sort of seems to be eroded, and people are, struggling to find employment, and, like all this stuff is going on. So it is at play in the story.
Right.
I'm sure there are those who share the sentiment that you're talking about where they want to continue terraforming Mars, but the damage is being done, is what I'm saying at this point.
No, it's a great point. It has a very like Detroit former major industrial city that eventually, gets offshore jobs and then it falls apart and gets hollowed out kind of vibe to it,
Definitely.
Well, I mean, like as much as being romantic about intergenerational terraforming, is nice to be romantic about jumping on a shuttle and going to a brand new place and it doesn't cost you anything, like you could see why a majority of the people would nope out and do that for sure. And then the minority that's super passionate that's left behind would be pretty freaking pissed about it.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the show and the books, whatever. I'll be curious to see.
Chad knows right now.
I was gonna say, I know. I realized that as I was saying it, and I was like, I need to put a button on this in a different way.
He's not telling us.
I wouldn't even attempt to hint at anything. I mean, there isn't much Mars stuff in the book as far as I can remember, but I kind of understand, wanting to have Bobby in this season as the kind of witness to those changes on Mars. Like it's similar to the other seasons. It's like probably bringing some of the future stuff forward, that kind of thing. But
I did find out that Bobby's arc in this is based on another novella.
yeah, I read it actually.
Oh.
It was interesting. It was actually quite interesting. Her novella isn't from her perspective at all. It's from her nephew's perspective. So it was everything in this season from the start right up until she beats the cop and the girl up and are like, fuck off, he's no longer part of this. That's basically the novella. So everything after that with her, smuggling stuff and whatever was made up.
Well, that's pretty much all of it.
Exactly, yeah. Like the novella covers the kind of like opening bit of that Mars thing, and then most of the Mars thing in the season seems to be, created for the purpose of exploring exactly what you guys are talking about, which is like a disillusioned Mars that's hollowing out while people want to bounce out of there and stuff. And I think it's worth exploring that because it's an interesting space to explore, and it's an interesting idea because like it's quite realistic. You could totally see how a society hollowing out and end up with a lot of pissed off people and the black market stuff, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, which is all pivotal to the story, really.
Yeah.
But we'll get there in due time.
Indeed. Yes, indeed.
But I did enjoy, the everything that was taking place on Illis, like the stuff with the Belters, like that's really played out in the story at large. So I wasn't as interested in that. I was definitely interested in the rivalry between Murtry and Holden, and also Amos. I liked that whole part of it, and then I enjoyed sort of the return of Miller in a little bit more significant of a way than he had been in the past season, I think.
Agree. I was very psyched to get more out of that and find out more about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really dug all that stuff. But I really liked the little Mars arc. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, what'd you like about it? Because it was, unexpected being, a book nerd.
It was just a cool parallel arc, and it all ties in, but we'll get to that. But I don't know. I just enjoyed seeing the disillusioned Mars and how that was affecting Bobby and everything that went on around that. The sort of crime syndicate she gets involved with. And
can we get to that? Because I don't remember how it ties in.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, it's clear that, and I don't know if this is something that happens in the books, but we're jumping right to the end of the series here. But what is it? Marco Inaris?
Oh yeah,
yes, is launching asteroids at Earth that are covered with Martian stealth tech.
Right. That
he got from the black market. So,
oh shit, that's what it is.
That whole Martian arc is setting that up. Yeah, and they don't make it super clear, but
yeah, it is. Yeah, I found that really odd that they chose to have that at the end of the season. Do you feel like that was necessary? Like, let's just say like that was the opening scene to the 5th season. Do you feel like it's necessary to have that kind of reveal at the end? It's obviously interesting, but
yeah, I think they did it for the sake of making sure that the Bobby Martian arc was well tied into the rest of the story.
Right.
Like,
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. this is why we spent all that time telling you about that stuff. It wasn't just to give you exposition on what was going on in Bobby's life. It ties into the story at large, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's why they did it.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that being the last scene.
Mainly, I just like Bobby, so that's why I like the Martian.
Yeah, Bobby's great. I still have like a. I love Bobby so much as a character that the black market thing was another example of kind of like way different than my interpretation of the character, and obviously my interpretation of the characters from the books, blah blah blah, same old shit. But I didn't really buy that she would ever do anything like that. You know, like 2/3 of the Martian arc is her reluctantly, joining the op because of blackmail and stuff like that. And then eventually it's like, her becoming kind of sort of a full-blown merc. And yeah, it just kind of bugged me because she's so prim and proper in terms of like uber soldier as opposed to like fallen soldier, but it's a kind of a minor gripe at the end of the day.
I don't know, man. I agree with you, and I think that while I enjoyed the Martian arc, and I do like Bobby as a character, I see the flip side of it, especially what you said about in the book when we did 1 and 2, how she's a consummate professional soldier. Like, it doesn't seem like she would do anything like that at all.
She's just like a hardcore fucking Navy SEAL, doesn't fuck around kind of person, But they've gone a little bit more three-dimensional, I guess, for this, which is fine, but...
Yeah, it works fine for the show. It's not like the writing's bad and the dialogue's bad. I mean, it's all good. I see that other side of it. Ever since you mentioned that, I was like,
Yeah, it's kind of pointless to keep hammering on it, but I just wanted to...
Yeah, right, exactly. Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. It was off color. It was out of character for her to sort of join a mercenary unit, but it was on character for her once she decided to do it to sort of like go all in,
Yeah.
It was like she was like concerned about the team, and you see as they're trying to do stuff, she almost dies because she decides to like put on a fucking suit and go outside and like, open a door from there or whatever the, however it plays out in the episode. But like, her all-inness about it, I thought was quite characteristic of her. So the fact that she ended up in the situation in the first place was kind of bizarre, but not completely unbelievable as per how they framed it. Yeah.
Yeah. And choosing to be a little loose with her morality for the sake of tying all of the threads together, it's somewhat justifiable. Like tying that entire Martian arc in with the main story, like you said, with the Inaros stealth tech asteroid things. I mean, they could have chosen a whole new character to do it, but like having Bobby do it isn't that much of a stretch, and you kind of get a bit more Bobby time.
Anything for Bobby time.
There you go. Speaking of new characters, what did you guys think of the Dr. LV thread on Illis?
Love her. She's great. I really liked her a lot.
She was good. She was great. She's just part of that whole, Illis Belters versus, what is it, RCE?
I think so, yeah.
The part of the story that I'm just like, eh.
Right. Okay.
Fair enough. I did dig that, like, I don't like, I don't know if I don't like or do like, or both, stories where there's like somebody's talking to somebody that's nobody else can see. So I really enjoyed that, like, she finally like was able to communicate with Miller and, sort of became a pivotal part of that part of the story at the end. You know what I mean? So it was like a lot of validation there, because it was kind of like, yeah, the crew of the Rossi, they believe Holden, they trust Holden, all that. But like, a lot of time he's running around in this season going, no, guys, there's a ghost. And he told me all this stuff. No, you got to believe me. It's true. It's like, what are we, 5? Like, I was like, No, really. I saw a Sasquatch in the woods.
Oh, dude. You saying that just now, it totally made me think of like that ending montage with Edward Norton punching himself in Fight Club. Like it's straight up that kind of shit.
Oh, God. Yeah. There you go, dude. Totally.
Just like wandering around talking to himself.
Totally bitch tits.
I had it all wrong. I thought you were talking about the Belter doctor that
Lucia
was in cahoots with the platform sabotage and
Yes, she also had a very weird accent. Should I favor everybody with another leprechaun impression?
Yeah, let's hear some more of your Lucky Charms, bud.
To get my lucky charms.
It's red balloons.
Aye, the red balloons, green clovers, purple stars, orange horseshoes, whatever.
Do the purple horseshoes.
They're magically delicious.
I feel like
Which is consequently what Ashford was singing when they flushed him, when
At
they
the end.
spaced him.
Yeah, he was singing the Magically Delicious theme song. I love it.
oh my god, can you imagine that? Frosted lucky charm, magically delicious.
But he doesn't even get through delicious. Like the third syllable, just like him wheezing in vacuum.
And then he hits send on his little super cool wrist computer.
Right? That's a weird thing too, but we'll get to that later.
Let's stay on Marco Inaros for a second. So I didn't realize because in episode 3 or 4, when Ashford is interrogating him on the ship, firstly, that guy is just. I know we talked about swearing less, but that guy is so fucking annoying. I'm not talking about Ashford. I'm talking about the guy that plays Inaros. I don't know if it's the way the actor's playing the character or what.
He's
but
super
like,
smarmy.
Really,
No, it's
God,
it's the
it's
character.
annoying.
It's the character.
yeah, really just makes me want to hurt something. An inanimate object, of course. He says at the end, like sort of at the end, he goes, "What did you say about the Martians? What about the Martians?" And he doesn't reveal it. So I didn't put it all together that he was covering the asteroids with the Martian stealth technology. I did not get that at all until you just brought it up. I didn't put it together. So even when they're like I couldn't figure out why the asteroids were like what they were painting on it or whatever at the end. It just, I don't know, whatever. It didn't register for me. So at any rate, thanks for clearing that up. That being said, I don't know. Like I would think, why is he so like focused on like shooting an asteroid at Earth? It's like there's a ring and all these planets and like all these places you could go plunder, and you know what I mean? Like it just seems kind of meh.
I kind of get the like radical vibe, you know? There's
Yeah.
people that fall into people that are part of a society or a religion, and then there's like the fuckwit radical sect, and he's clearly in that sect, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's a fundamentalist belter.
There you go.
Fundamentalist OPE. Yeah, I'm getting kind of
Did you say OPE or OPA?
I said OPE, but I meant.
Okay.
You down with OPE?
Yeah, you know me. I love that.
Where was I? Oh, yeah. I think there's I'm just getting a vibe here. I don't know what, we really haven't spent much time with the character of Marco Inaros yet, but I'm getting sort of like a great white whale vibe from him. Like he's just so on the journey of like war versus the inners that the momentum is just it's just keeping him going on that path.
Now that he's got an opportunity, he's going to seize it or something.
Right, while everybody's distracted. Instead of seizing on opportunity for himself while everybody's distracted, he's going to make a move, and yeah, that kind of doesn't make sense, but shit like that doesn't ever make sense, does it?
That's true.
No, that's why people like that are crazy. Yeah.
I feel like the earlier factionalism in the show with the various, groups in the OPA fighting against each other for control somewhat dilutes Inaros's radicalism. And so I kind of prefer the like simple Fred Johnson OPA, and then all of a sudden Inaros shows up, like you said, white whaling, as opposed to it being a constant factional struggle all the time. But it's kind of nitpicky. I definitely get the like radical fundamentalist vibe, like just like you're saying about Inaros.
Right. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about all that. I didn't love it, but I'll tell you what I did like. I did like when Ashford and co board the ship at the end to try to capture him. That was a really, really great sequence. And then, of course, we finally see, him and Naomi's son.
Yeah.
And he's cleaned up, and he's even more of a D-bag. And I was bummed that Ashford got greased, because I really liked the turn his character made. Like he was kind of a penis in the beginning when he came around, and in season 3, and then like he.
I love how last episode you're like, he was a fucking dildo, and now he's a penis. I love it. It's great.
I said that.
I think you said Inaros was a dildo, and Ashford is now a penis. I'm digging the vocabulary. Sorry, I totally hijacked it.
Right on. Well, Naros is still a dildo, and
oh no, sorry, it was Aaron Wright, but Naros is a dildo too.
Hey, dildo.
No, I think it was the SG that I said was a dildo, because I think we all agree that Aaron Wright was like a great character. Like, love him or hate him, he was a villain, but well written, great character, great, well portrayed. Yeah.
There you go. It was the SG that was a dildo. And you're a dildo for calling the SG the SG, and everyone needs to eat a bag of dicks, and I interrupted you, and back to what you were saying.
And I'll do anything for you to just keep talking and stop on this cul-de-sac, Kevin. Yeah. All right, so...
I love that I was able to throw out a hey, dildo, and you didn't even... You did not pick up on that.
Oh, my God. I just watched that the other day, Ben, after we were talking about it.
All right.
Anyway.
Man, I was not psyched about about Ashford being spaced at all.
Oh, no, I wasn't either. That's where I was. Yeah. And I loved that whole, like, let me just finish that little thought, Ben. I really liked that sequence with the insertion, with them, going in to kill him. And it was just it was a well done action sequence. And I loved how, it's easy to forget that everybody's wearing mag boots. And I loved how they shot everybody when they boarded, and like, they're all just like standing there with their hands up in the air, and there's blood just floating there and guns floating there. Like, it was really, really cool visually to watch that. And to see Ashford in action too, I really enjoyed that, because like we really got to see that, like, this is a guy that can, like, definitely knows what he's doing, definitely can get in there and kick some ass for sure. So that made it even more upsetting when he did get spaced. Ben, take it from there.
You mentioned that, Benny, a second ago, that you didn't like Ashford getting spaced. Is it for the obvious reasons, or what was the go there?
Yeah, no, I mean, I just really started to warm up to the character. I was enjoying the hell out of him, and they took him away from me. So just, I get it. His arc played out well, but still, I'm going to miss him. He was awesome.
Yeah, he was, and I agree, Ben. I like he that's like the compliment to the writing and David Strathairn as an actor. The way that he definitely, I thought he was a dildo when he started, and to really turn around, he got totally on board with the whole peace treaty thing, and it was like, okay, we got to act like we have our shit together, and I really dug that, man. I really liked where his character went a lot, and yeah, major bummer when he died. But it's a good thing that when characters like him and Cotillard die, I mean, these are like you're getting emotionally attached. You're really enjoying watching these actors. You're really enjoying these characters, and it's like it's great when they get killed, man, because it's really how it should be, man. And then the next emotion for you is that you should miss them.
Yeah. If people don't die on shows like this, you end up with like a jumping freeze frame at the end of the show, and it's just, no one wants that.
Well, what you end up with? You just end up with like characters that should have gone away that don't, and it's like, now they're going to be here for another 14 seasons because the fans love them and they're selling ads, and it's like, now it's not a show.
And then Disney buys
like
them.
and exactly, man. So I think it's great that these characters are dying. And, Cotillard was played by, not a well-known actor, but David Strathairn is a very well-known actor. So, very cool in both situations, and upsetting.
I loved his scene with Drummer, with the bottle of booze, kind of the send off. That was a great scene.
Yeah, man. I mean, my favorite Belter faction, or my favorite Belter people, really were like he and Drummer.
No doubt.
And I thought there was an interesting, like, non-romantic friendship relationship that was budding between those two.
They're buds.
And it's sad to see it cut short.
Yeah.
I mean, they went through a lot together. He sort of took command of the ship at one point, and like, there's a lot going on, man, between the two of them, and so there was a nice interplay of various different things to make that relationship develop, and it did beautifully. I think we're all agreeing on that.
Yeah,
and kudos to the writers, because all of that was a departure from from the books. Like Ashford is kind of thrown away and doesn't really have much of a place in the novels and whatnot. So like they did a good job.
Yeah, I like that even more.
Yeah, he was an interesting character because he was never. I mean, maybe he was a little douchey towards Drummer and in his entrance, but even in season 3 when he wanted to blow up the ring or he wanted to shoot use the comm laser to blow up the ring or whatever, like he was convinced that was the right thing to do to save everybody.
100%.
It wasn't like he was some fucking mustache twirling evil person. Like he was just he had the wrong solution to the problem.
Yeah.
Right, but then when he realized it, like he totally was like, okay, I'm wrong, and he got on board with
Sure,
hold it and everything, and I really like that. I like that.
And that exact moment was the departure because he doesn't get on board and ends up just getting forcibly removed, and then that's the last you see and hear of him. So, yeah, it's well handled. They did a great job. Well acted, well handled, well written. So. It was sad to see him go, but in a way, like it brought a lot of gravity to that kind of moment in the season. There's actual stakes as a result of the death,
Right, and it left us with a cool cliffhanger because he clearly he was sending somebody something on his little wrist comm there as he was singing the Lucky Charms song and dying. I'm trying to think if I can do Ashford singing the Lucky Charms song whilst dying. Frosted Lucky Charms, they're magically.
It's pretty good.
There you go, folks. Real performances from professional actors.
Yeah, that spacing scene was just. I mean, the way they handled it was amazing. I thought it was really good.
And you so hate what's his name,
Marcos the D-bag Inaros. Yeah.
Yeah, you so hate Inaros that seeing him get a little victory over Ashford, you're so pissed. You're like, God damn it, man.
Oh, it just makes me angrier. Fuels my anger.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the stew of emotions that you're having through that whole scene is just rich. you want to kill Inaros, but you're focused on. I mean, I was focused on Ashford. I was like, oh fuck, and it's like you don't quite realize even that he's left the ship because he's still singing. It's not like he gets whooshed out of the airlock, like somebody getting sucked out of an airplane at altitude or whatever. Like they often portray depressurization that way. So it was interesting to see him.
No, they always portray it that way. Yes.
Yeah, it was interesting to see him just turn around and face it. And sing his little jig on his way out.
I love how he had that John Constantine flipping off the devil thing, where he's just kind of does the belter flip off to Inaros behind him as he floats out. It was so great.
Yeah, that was very cool. I like that.
Yeah. And then just watching, the way they handled him going cold seemed pretty realistic.
Yeah, the eyes kind of glass over.
Yeah, it seemed quite realistic based on what I've, read about what it would be like if you were thrown into vacuum with no suit.
Yeah, well handled.
Yeah, wow. Really, 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 really great ending to the season with all of that right there.
Which we kind of raced to.
That we raced to. I think it's better to handle the Inaros Ashford kind of stuff now, just because the Matrixy machine coming alive, fucking Illis blowing up thing is kind of its own thing.
Alex, you're stinking up the kitchen with your stupid lasagna. I just want a coffee.
I had that more of that kind of cheesy PBS pledge drive kind of thing in my head, where it was
for $2.
Here are some great ways to listen to this great podcast, but I'm not going to talk about that. Here's Chad.
Just thanks, Kevin.
No, and here to talk about that is Algorithm.
While you're off in space, traveling to the nearest ring gate, you could be donating to Everybody Dies podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
And for a pledge of just $1, you'll get this wonderful nothing burger.
Yeah, anyways, we just wanted to chime in and ask that you guys, if you guys like our show, please tell some friends about it. We're trying to grow the show and make it more awesome for you guys. So we would love it if you could to share us with a friend or jump onto iTunes and give us a rating or something, because it helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you pledge $2 to our Patreon, you'll get a sweet all edges lasagna pan, and we'll lose like $30 on that.
We're losing $15 on.
Yeah, exactly. You know what we should come up with as a merch item is a patch. You know, let's kick it 80s style, dude, right?
Oh, fuck yeah, like a space patch or something?
Yes.
Dude.
That's such a great idea.
Ben, I know you're all about patches, bro. So about a patch, man.
I guess like the remaining spots are... Well, we diverged when I was talking about Elvie, and Benny, you thought I was talking about Dr. Lucia. So the Dr. Lucia stuff didn't really ring your bell? You're just kind of like, whatever?
No. I mean, again, she seemed to be sort of placed to give us a perspective on things that were going on. You know, like you said, she's the only person that actually gets to hear Miller talk.
Elvie, the biologist, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No. Elvie does, not Lucia. Okay, yeah.
Oh, God. Were we talking about Lucia?
Yeah, I thought I was circling back to Lucia, but the reason that I was circling back to Lucia was because you mistook Elvie for Lucia. So let's just circle back to Elvie and then go into Lucia.
Yeah, okay.
So let's circle back to the biologist arc.
No, it seemed for some of the story she was sort of meant to be our perspective.
Right. Yeah.
Not for the whole thing necessarily, but for some of it, it seemed to be. At least, like, you know, she was like a liaison peering into the lives of the crew of the Rocinante. You know, she was like on to them, you know, like she had an idea about what was going on. So she was like the only other person that knew besides us what was going on. You know what I mean? Like none of the Belters knew what was going on. None of the RCE people knew what was going on. Like, but she seemed to have like, you know, an intuition about what was something was fishy with Holden, and she knew.
Yeah, that's an interesting point actually, because Holden essentially kind of goes off the deep end from the perspective of everyone outside of Holden, because he's, you know, Fight Club punching himself in the face. So, like, we know that Holden is telling the truth, and we know that Holden is seeing Miller, but
right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Elvie is kind of a surrogate for us while Holden is talking into himself in another room.
I got a rip jar. He goes, Holden impression from last week.
It was good, man. Stop talking about your lasagna pan, Alex.
No, he was like, oh, this ship has great coffee. And Dr. Elvie's like, you're not telling me everything. That was pretty much season 4 in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
This ship has great coffee. You're not telling me everything. Who is this Miller? He's the guy that gives me my coffee.
The dismissing of her was kind of weird. The whole like, well, who's Miller? And Alex and Holden are just kind of like, don't worry about it. It's need to know or whatever, you know. It's a weird handling of her.
Yeah, they didn't commit to their position, Chad.
Yeah,
on that, you know what I mean? They were like, "Oh, ma'am, you don't need to know. That's on a need to know basis." Hey, how about some lasagna? You know, and they didn't hold fast to their position.
It was a weird diversion that was temporary.
So one of my favorite parts was seeing Miller as like some weird, I don't know. I mean, people call it a robot, but I don't think it was a robot. I think it was just like some like comm array or something that could move, and he just inhabited it because he could try to make it, you know, it was semi-locomotive or something.
A robot? Dude, it was not a robot. It was him essentially possessing something physical in order to do something physical to something physical.
Right. Correct. But I mean, it wasn't like, you know, a service robot or something that was like, you know, lurking about. He just like literally like something that was able to move in the station he took control of. Like it wasn't
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It could
wasn't a
move, but it
robot.
wasn't meant to necessarily move.
No, it was a goddamn pile of junk. It was a pile of metal junk.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what it was. But anyways, just it was funny hearing Miller's voice like and Miller's character portrayed through this moving pile of junk.
I know. He's like, you're going to have to help me out. Get me closer. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird sequence that maybe just didn't translate very well to visual media.
No.
It was vague, but I kind of liked that about it.
Mm.
So, but in that, LV sees through that, they're calling it the off switch, I guess, but it seemed like some kind of a portal to another world or something, and was clearly shaken by it. So it's going to be interesting. I wonder if we're going to find out more about that going forward.
I felt like she had a similar to Holden kind of vision like he had, and he saw like, oh, it's all solar systems burning and like all of this sort of thing. Like that's sort of what I got from that was that she was able to get a glimpse like he did. And I did not understand if what they did worked. Like it was like she kind of threw Miller, the junk body Miller at the thing, and like he kind of bounced off, and then like I feel like nothing happened, and I wasn't sure if anything did happen, and I don't know. Can either of you clear that up?
Benny, take a swing. I don't want to risk spoiling things.
And I could be wrong here, but I was under the impression that, we'll just refer to it as the off switch because that's what they were calling it in the episode, right?
Sure.
That wasn't proto-molecule technology. That was like the badass civilization that took out the proto-molecule on the planet, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever she saw, it wasn't the same vision that Miller had.
Right.
It would have been getting a glimpse of this other ancient alien civilization's tech.
Yeah.
Wait, there's two? I was under the understanding that the proto-molecule was something that was built by a civilization to do,
correct,
whatever, various different things.
Yeah.
And the proto-molecule was still out there after the civilization had died off. And it was reaching out, looking for its, quote, former masters, not being able to find it. And then the Venus pimple thing sort of like took off, like when somebody popped it, rather, and went into space. And then all of a sudden it formed the ring.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. You were correct up to there. But on Illis, there's a bunch of dead proto-molecule technology. And the backstory there is supposedly that another alien civilization took it out.
Interesting.
Yeah. So without, like, number one, I kind of forget how the end of book 4 was handled, which is a good thing because it means it's way less likely that I'll spoil anything. And number two, I'm not going to spoil anything.
Thank you.
Yeah, the proto-molecule was destroyed by a superior civilization, and that superior civilization is represented by what they call the off switch. I do remember from the books that the off switch situation and that sequence is way more thoroughly explained, not in any major ways, but like it's a lot clearer what's going on, which makes sense because you got, the ability to go inside people's thoughts and whatnot. But I think like the ultimate takeaway is just like if the proto-molecule civilization is like infinitely more advanced than we are, the proto-molecule civilization is like a fucking anthill to the off-switch civilization.
Wow.
The proto-molecule civilization would have been like mind-blowing for us to encounter, and then it's like, wait, now they're gone? Like, what destroyed them? What's powerful enough to destroy this civilization that's way beyond us? And that's the like, holy shit, take a bite out of your seat kind of thing.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up, number one. Number two, so my next question is, is the on-off switch the sort of little ball of fire in the heart of that structure, or is it?
Yes.
Okay. Or is it the entirety of the structures on?
No.
Okay. So the structures are from the proto-molecule.
Yes. All the tech on the surface of that planet, all those weird shark fang looking towers or whatever, that's all proto-molecule civilization technology. Which is why Miller was able to control and open doors and shut, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the ability to, like Holden's vision of the ability to like blast an entire solar system by blowing up the sun. Like it's made clear that the proto-molecule civilization is blowing up suns to try and quarantine this other civilization, if that makes sense, you know? So it's almost like the proto-molecule civilization has their own proto-molecule that they're fighting in a way. Does that make sense?
Wow.
Interesting. You sure that's not coming from the books?
No, it's not. It's not that it's like...
Because I didn't glean any of that for whatever reason.
Well, the torching of the systems with the blowing up of the suns, I thought was made reasonably clear in season 2 with Holden's vision.
Oh, okay.
Whichever season. I thought that they made it reasonably clear that like Holden's vision was, you know, the station has the ability to blow up our solar system. Ashford's like, we got to blow up the ring because we can't let them blow up our solar system. And then it becomes more clear that the station in the middle of the ring is actually proto-molecule tech. So that kind of makes it clear that the blowing up of the suns is one of the station's security measures. Am I over-explaining it in the sense that like maybe there's more context from the book?
No, that's good. That's good. I just, I mean, we've been cramming all of this stuff, so that's just one of the little details that...
Well, it might be that it's a nugget from the book that isn't really made crystal clear in the show, but it doesn't spoil anything because it's just adding a tiny bit more, I suppose, backstory or a tiny bit more relevance to the vision, for example, Holden's vision. And then like I don't even think that the off switch as its own kind of like proto-molecule thing like that isn't in the books. That's just kind of like the way I've, come to understand it. Like it's the nuts and bolts of it is the proto-molecule civilization gets its shit pushed in by another bigger civilization, and that's represented by this on-off switch thing, which they don't really talk much about what it means in this season, and they don't really explain it much, and I can't remember it, so it's kind of good that I can't remember it, because otherwise I'd just be like, yeah, it means this, and it's just like kind of spoiling it. So
right. Well, the proto-molecule and the off switch are sort of like the idea of like how one way we might spread out and become a galactic civilization would be through the use of von Neumann machines, where we're talking like self-replicating tech that sort of has its own agenda and goes out there exploring and reporting back to us or whatever. So the off switch and the proto molecule are both seemingly that kind of thing. Like we're not dealing with the actual entities; we're just dealing with their von Neumann machines.
Yeah, because that's the vibe I got from the proto molecule. Was like its purpose is to go find habitable planets and then create a gateway that they can travel through to go and land on the planet and terraform, like colonize it or something. But there's no civilization left to colonize anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm really curious to see where this all goes, especially with this knowledge now. Because I didn't realize that it was... I wasn't picking up that it was two civilizations. I was just thinking there was an off switch embedded inside the proto-molecule tech thorn chambers, whatever the hell they are.
Right. Well, and that's kind of like, to close it out, that's what's interesting about the climax with the Miller, weird air conditioning fucking robot, which is like... the proto-molecule is trying to take control of Miller because they're like, don't touch the fucking switch because that's the thing that, killed us. Don't touch it. Don't wake it up. Kind of like we were like, don't touch the station. Don't touch the rings. Don't wake it up.
Mm-hmm. When Holden fires that rocket at the thing, and he's all like, it's spinning around. He's like, I'm going to shoot a rocket at it. And she's like, we don't know anything about this. Like, this is amazing. Human beings have never encountered an alien life form. Yeah, well, not now. Duh, boop. And then he fires. So, like, he's just such a lunkhead moment, dude. He's like, oh, well, we're going to find out. This thing's not going to be moving when I'm done with it. It's like, okay, whatever, dude.
Hold my beer. I'm going to try something.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, dude. Hold my beer. I'm going to try something. Like, okay, now you're 5 again. Like, I'm serious. You think if I jump off that balcony, I'd hurt myself? It's like, yeah, dude, you would. So my question to you is, because they don't make this abundantly clear, when Holden breaks that one, is that what essentially causes the backup of the system that makes the shockwave and the tidal wave and all of that? Like, is it that he destroyed it and now the whole mechanism is broken? and then it starts to break down.
I'm interested to hear Benny's take on it.
I thought that was all a result of Miller's probing. Like the explosion, the lightning strikes, all of that stuff I thought was like more the result of like what Miller was doing behind the scenes to try and suss out a way for himself to die, or, you know, whatever the fuck it was that he was hunting for.
Right, but remember, there's two Millers. There's the Miller that's like the puppet of
Right, there's the investigator,
proto-molecule.
and then
Right.
there's the self-aware investigator, which is, yeah, right.
Or what I consider actual Miller.
Well, it's not actual Miller. It's,
So Ben, here's the thing. When I first watched it, I thought exactly what you thought. And then when I watched it again this week, I was like, wait a second. Did Holden like trip off this entire sequence of events? Because the lightning actually came first. Then the things started like spinning around and doing that, like, you know, drill, whatever the hell it was doing. That's when he fired the torpedo at it. Am I?
No, you're
am I getting that
remembering.
right? Yeah,
it
that's
right.
right. Yeah, I'm remembering it right. And then all of a sudden, the nerd on the Edward Israel was like, "Oh, there's like a lot of heat coming from this chain of islands where the lightning ended."
Yeah.
And it's like the lightning strikes were concurrent with the number and alignment of the little either real or fake planetoids
Yeah, the moon.
circling the planet, the moons. So the last lightning strike hits on the chain of islands, and that's where we see the heat bloom, and then essentially what I had in my mind is like a reactor overload.
Yeah, that's exactly
And
what
then
it was.
and then it sends out the shock wave and the tidal wave.
Yeah.
Is that what's happening there? Is it breaking?
I love the explanation because it's like, because I'm more aware of what's going on, it sounds like a grassy knoll third shooter conspiracy theory.
So wait,
only
is
because
it back and to the left?
Yeah, exactly. Only because of how vague it is in the show. Like, again, like, because we've been so balls deep in this fucking universe, like, I read all 9 books for the second time, you know, in the last 6 months leading up to this. Not even because we were going to do a show. And then I've, like, reread a bunch of stuff. And so I started rereading 4 in preparation for this, and I just got, like, a third of the way into it. I was like, I just can't fucking read anymore about this goddamn universe for a while. So I stopped reading before refreshing my memory about a lot of this, but based on my vague memory, no, Holden doesn't set it off by blowing it up because none of that shooting a cruise missile thing happens. The shooting the cruise missile thing is like a shortcut to get to the kind of bit where the moon heats up and everything's going to start blowing up. I don't quite remember how it goes down in the book, but I'm pretty sure that it's what you were saying, Benny, which is like they go in and, you know, Holden helps him flip the switch by pulling the tree branch out of the way, and that's what's setting something in motion at that point, and it just kind of all cascades from there.
right.
Okay, all right.
What? Why did Holden fire the missile? Was that related to like the techno locust things that were attacking everybody?
Yeah, no, like the thing that's missing is like a robot, like from memory, like they're these like sleek white interesting kind of like robots, kind of like the Uba robot from the Star Wars, you know? It's like these weird plasticky sleek white robot Ubas. And so
Well, you're dead, but then
Oh,
the Uba,
yes, I'm dead.
you're dead for mentioning Star Wars, and then but the Uba robot resurrected you.
yeah, so the giant
Uba.
the giant Uba robots
Uba.
they
I'm gonna annoy him with this for like a minute. Go ahead.
That's fine. They
It's fine.
they encounter a giant Uba robot, and
Uba.
it freaks Holden out. I don't think he blows it up, and then later on, Miller inhabits an Uba robot, like a giant robot, and Holden actually like rides on the back of it to the other side of the planet with LV, and then they go into the depths, and so it's like a kind of a whole different thing.
Oh, weird.
But it ends up in the same place, which is
Wow.
LV and Holden in the room with the switch thing. So like, as many people have said with the show, it's quite different from the books, but it almost always ends up in the same place. And so same. So like the shooting the rocket thing doesn't really happen to my recollection, but it's close enough where it doesn't really matter. The only thing that kind of sucks is that it's so vague and they're kind of skipping around in such a weird way that you can end up on a grassy knoll fucking making assumptions because of how vague they're being, you know? So you can kind of go both ways with how frustrating it is with the way that they're just kind of making things up on their own.
Yes, I see why you're saying that now. Yeah.
I really enjoyed seeing the Rossi firing fucking Gatling guns and missiles in atmosphere. It was fucking neat.
Yeah, it was. I agree. It was super cool how they were using the ship as like kind of a remote sort of weapon / like, you know, battle tower. Yeah. It was neat.
Yeah, it was cool to see it landed like, you know, like on its main engine, like, you know, like a rocket ship, for lack of a better term. It was kind of cool.
No, I actually love, like, just kind of jumping back to like the physics and the tech of this show, which are really, really well thought out. I love how all of the ships, when they do any kind of terrestrial descent, it's on the main engine, like backwards. I always like, wow, that's so cool, man. And then once they break into the atmosphere, they switch to thrusters.
Yeah.
You know, very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I was having little thoughts about the Council's rocket ship from the Hyperion Cantos.
Oh, Hyperion, yeah, totally.
Oh shit, totally, man. Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, I for whatever reason, like, you guys might be the same, but when I read books a lot of the time, like, I just don't take the time to, like, for example, fucking study the stupid ass sci-fi names, and so a lot of the times I like mispronounce the names in my head, and it's just the way that I know the name, you know. Similarly with this, I had always imagined the Rossi landing like on its side, so seeing it come down like you're talking about, I was just kind of like, wait, what? That's not how it was in my brain, you know. But it's still really fucking cool. But doesn't mean that it's supposed to land on its side. But, you know, just sometimes you just imagine it a certain way that when it goes another way, it's like, it like broke my brain. It didn't even bother me. I was just like super confused.
Oh, yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it was cool.
Speaking of words that keep popping up in books that you pronounce, fucking Iowa.
Dude, say Iowa again. Well, that's a funny little segue because Julie Mao's ship, the racing ship, I forget the name of the ship. You guys probably remember it, but
I don't.
It's like a class of ship, and so in the book, when it's talking about the ship, it's like it's a racing pinnacle. So you're just like, oh, okay, a pinnacle is the category of racing ship, and the whatever the name of the ship is the name of the ship. But I saw this thread on Reddit, and it was like, what the fuck do they keep saying about this ship in the audiobook? And it turns out it wasn't Pinnacle at all. It's Pinace. And it sounds like they're saying penis over and over in the audiobook. And everyone was getting confused about it. And they're like, why the fuck do they keep calling her ship a penis? And it's like a old French sailing word that means like fast racing ship or some shit. I just thought it was really funny.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it never dawned on me, and I was like, what do you mean it's a pinnacle? And then like everyone in the comments said the same thing, and it turns out there's no L, dude. It just looks like a penis.
Funny.
Anyways.
I've done that before, but I usually catch myself somewhere, and then it's doubly annoying because I get hung up on that word every time I read it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I've had the same kind of confusion like with the pinnacle thing. Like I've done that before, and then be like, wait a minute, there's no L in that. What the fuck?
Yeah. Dude.
And then the whole rest of the book, I like every time I see that word, I'm like, ugh, it catches me.
So what else do we have really that we haven't covered? We kind of fumbled all over Lucia. I'm really curious your guys' thoughts on the Lucia daughter fucking boyfriend thing.
I don't know. I can't stop thinking about okay, here's my response without even letting you finish. I liked Felsia. I liked, you know, the whole thing. I mean, it wasn't nothing like earth-shattering. It was like the girl, yeah, she wants to go to college, and then Naomi's like, hey, you can get a better education just being on a ship, you know, and Alex will teach you how to make lasagna and brownies, you know. It's great. So, like, I like that. That was cool.
Don't forget the frittatas, friend.
And don't forget those delicious frittatas in the morning. So, when I talked to Chad the other night, he was telling me that in the books, the situation is very different. And I can't stop thinking about that. I really like, I found it like more interesting, that dynamic, Chad, like
Right.
with the pracs and like all that. You know, I just you want to? Can you just like quickly recap that for Ben?
Yeah, let me try and not be a fuckhead about this.
Don't be a knob.
Don't be a knob. So in the show, when Prax is on Ganymede, or he gets back to Ganymede and has the Rosie crew alongside to save May, before things go to shit, he runs into a buddy of his whose son was also taken. And it's like a 1 scene, 5 line thing. But the guy's name's Bazia, and his son is Katoa. And so there's a scene in the book where Prax is on Ganymede and he goes to Bazia's house. And at Bazia's house, he's basically like, I'm trying to find May. And Bazia's like, dude, Katoa's dead. We're going to leave Ganymede. This place is fucked. And Prax is like, dude, I don't believe you. May is not dead. I'm going to find May. And Bazia like violently strikes out at Prax, and their relationship kind of, he's just like, all right, fucking, I'm out of here. See you later. I'm going to go find May. And so this dude, Bazia, is convinced that Katoa is dead, and he leaves Ganymede. And so in the show, Katoa goes on to be fucking blue-faced Space Jam kid. In the book, they find him dead. He's just a dead kid. I bring this up because Bazia and his wife Lucia are Dr. Lucia and Bazia in book 4. So Lucia is the doctor in book 4, and Bazia is the guy that ends up blowing up the platform, and he's the guy that ends up on the ship. And it's kind of a flipped gender role, but it's interesting because the whole point of the terrorist blowing up the thing character is that he's doing it because of how terrified he is of losing anyone else because he's lost his son. And so it's just kind of an interesting justification for the behavior where that kind of isn't really made clear in the show, and kind of, Felsia's like, Mom, why'd you fucking blow up the platform? And she's like, 'cause I wanted to, like it just doesn't really have any justification. And so it's just an interesting choice to kind of clean out all of that other stuff. I get the complexity of it would have been hard to do, but just to clean out all that other stuff.
Kind of, but I think it would have been more interesting if they had done it that way. And it didn't seem like it was that difficult of a stretch to make that happen. Like I definitely understand some of the choices that they made in terms of translating it to a visual medium, but this I don't. Like that seems way more cohesive to me too.
I don't know, do you have any reaction to that, Benny? That was a lot of info to dump on you, but
I think it's cool, and I think it works in the books, but I completely understand why they didn't go for it in the show, because really they have enough motivation to blow up the platform just because the fucking Belters probably don't want some Earth corporation coming in and, trying to take their new good thing away from them.
Yeah.
Especially after they had to leave Ganymede and all of that. So I feel like the showrunners were probably like, well, that's enough motivation. We don't need to like go back and tie all that other shit together.
I think that's a great point.
I mean, that's a really cool story, but I could see why it ended up on the, why it didn't make it into the show, because it is complicated to, they would have had to put that guy, they would have had to have included all of, I mean, it would have been cool, I guess, but I can see why they avoided that, possibly in favor of other things.
A simpler story. Yeah. Similarly, there was the guy scientist on the Edward Israel is on the ground with LV the whole time, and the guy that is on the ship is actually Miller's former partner who gets spiked to a wall in season 1.
Ah, man.
Oh, well, yeah, that dude just disappeared.
Yeah. So like,
yeah, he was cool too. I liked him.
In a way, like, let's just say they had that dude in this season, and let's just say they did do all the Prax Katoa stuff in this season. Like, you could make an argument that it's like, really, these characters are meeting each other on the other side of the galaxy. Like, how likely is that? But in another way, like from a storytelling perspective, I kind of like that they're bringing certain characters back into it in the novels and stuff. But I agree with you, Ben. I think that it's easy to find the motivations without having to reinvent the wheel and bring huge arcs back into the story. Maybe it's just a justification for, if you're into these shows, they're so close to the books and the seasons align with the book numbers that you can go back and read them if you're really into digging into the lore and catch really cool threads like this that are missed out on,
Yeah, reading's cool.
Yeah, man, reading is fundamental.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. I really I agree with you, Chad. Like I thought about that too. I was like, oh, that would have been too like kind of convenient, you know, for it's like, oh, this is the guy from Ganymede and it's his buddy, blah 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 blah. And there's like, but at the same time, like I don't know, I just seemed a little bit more interesting than what actually happened, you know. So the Lucia arc was like kind of whatever, you know. It was like okay, so she, you know, was part of the plot to blow up the pad and. Now she's on the Rossi and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Next.
Yeah. Did you feel that same way about the slugs and the green eye stuff?
No, but I kind of felt like that was resolved with a big fat nothing burger, too. It was like, okay, the slugs are like toxic and it's like they touch you and you die. And I was like, oh, cool. And like everybody's like everybody's seeing green, you know? And I was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. And then nothing. Just didn't really go anywhere. Slugs were still there. They burned them all off. And it's like with no explanation of where they came from. Were they part of the actual planet? Were they a mix of protomolecule interacting with the planet? Like, no idea. And ditto with the green bacteria. And why were they both green? And why is the sky blue? Why is my name Kev? You know?
I feel like all of that stuff was just a way for them to ratchet up the tension while they were all trapped in the protomolecule structure, you know? Like it was all just there to like make it more of a pressure cooker, you know, and make you think that something really fucked up was going to happen. And then nothing really did.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, look, I said it before. I mean, I know we're sort of getting close to the end here, but this season was not like, I wasn't like, yo, it was like, you know, yeah, it's pushing the story along. There was definitely elements that I loved, but at the same time, it was just kind of like, well, okay, cool. What happens next?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, the story in this season, the overarching story wasn't really the thing. It was, you know, the devil was in the details. It was like what the characters were able to do in the story, you know, like getting to see Amos, like, you know, have the rivalry with
Murtry.
with Murphy. But, you know, also getting to see him, like, you know, like he helps out that kid when they're all trapped in the protomolecule structure. So like you get to see, you know, it's, and whatever, those are just off the top of my head examples pertaining to Amos, but like it's that kind of stuff that happens within the story that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
It's the little character developments and the, you know, the little things that they get to do that you get to see those characters do.
And then the climax for Amos of having to go through Way at the end there too was a big moment for him, I think.
Having to go through what?
Having to like go through Way. Like,
oh yeah.
It wasn't a big moment for him, but it's a big moment for the audience to see just how committed he is to, you know, the Rossi crew, for example. Like, you know, I don't think he had a huge character arc leap in the sense of choosing to choose the Rossi crew over Way, but having him put his money where his mouth is as an audience, you know, watching him just like, yeah, I'll never lie to you meant I'm going to fucking blast you. It didn't mean like feel good about what I'm about to say, you know, like.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't as if it wasn't as if he had no trepidation about it, you know? So it was interesting to see a sort of a struggle and a sort of an aftermath.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you know, it clearly motivated him to want to fuck up Murtry even more.
That was, yeah. Especially when Murtry punches him on the ship at the end and he just turns with a bloody smile. Like, that was the best.
Yeah.
And he says, thank you.
Yeah. It's like so great.
We're not going to get to see that play out, but I wish I could be a fly on the wall for that one.
Right. Yeah, I can't remember how it goes down, which is I kind of like that I can't remember it. I really liked that they took the time to have Amos and Holden fall in love in this season. Like, it really like cemented their, you know, Batman and Robin like relationship. The whole like Holden grabbing him and being like, I can't lose you, you know? And yes, I did bring up Batman to fuck with you.
Fucking Batman reference. God damn you.
Yeah, exactly. What a dick. Why do you hate Ben?
Nah, I like Batman a lot.
It's not that he hates me, it's that he just fucking loves Batman.
Yeah, I just love Batman.
And Amos.
That's it.
Look, Chad, I agree with what you're saying, and I do dig. I love the relationship with the crew of the Rocinante, whoever we're talking about. Like, the relationships between all of them are fantastic. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one, for sure.
Yeah, this season sort of seems to deepen and cement that even further.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Over a nice, tasty za.
Not a whole lot of Alex action in this one.
No. I did like it didn't really spend a lot of time with him, but I really enjoyed the tension of the decaying orbit and them figuring out to use the railgun as propulsion mechanism. Like, I don't think it really played overly well in the show, but it's a super awesome tension sequence
Yes.
in the story.
That was very, very cool.
Yeah.
I like that a lot too.
I love that they keep, like Alex is like clearly sort of the crew mother.
Yeah.
And most of his inclusion seems to go back and forth between him in that role and him just being a super badass pilot.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And making people feel better with lasagna and frittatas and brownies.
Yeah. He's got like Maverick Top Gun meets Mrs. Doubtfire thing going on.
Oh my God, dude. Wow. That is sick.
I love Alex.
Help is on the way here.
I think Alex is one of my favorites, man, for sure. Cass Anvar really, really helps me in that regard too.
I agree. And I mean, we talked about, we've made, excuse me, we've made a lot of fun of the lasagna thing the last 2 episodes, but he's awesome. I mean, nobody's taken that away from him. We talked about him at length in the season 1 and 2 episodes. So,
Yeah.
I think we've sort of mined the depths of season 4. I just wanted to, I actually have a nugget this week. I know, right? It's exciting. So I wanted to jump back to season 3 because I did look at my notes and I did remember some other stuff. And I don't want to go into a whole thing about season 3, but I want to say there was another really great moment right before Amos greased the scientist when they found Prax's daughter.
Yeah.
And that whole scene is so good. And Prax kneels down on one knee to his daughter's eye level, and he says, "This is Amos. He's my best friend in the whole world, and I want you to go with him for a minute." And like Amos's, really Wes Chatham's subtle reaction to that was just so perfect. It was such a great scene, and I'm pissed that last week was such a bunch of verbal vomit, that we didn't get a lot of, so we didn't talk about a lot of great moments that happened in season 3 because there were definitely way more than season 4.
Yeah.
Like this one that I'm describing. Like it was so touching and so perfect. And like Amos's reaction was like surprise and being touched that this man thought of him this way, and this is somebody that's like a quasi sociopath. So I just thought it was really, really great. And really well done. That's it.
Yeah, totally. And similar to the Ashford drummer / Ashford death, I don't believe any of that best friend stuff is in the book. So again, kudos to the writers for a cool, touching moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really cool. Anyway, that's it. We can go now.
You got any nuggets there, Ben Aruni?
I'm not the nugget guy.
It's true. I've got a nugget.
I'm not the nugget guy.
You're the nugget guy.
I'll round out the 2 nugget rule with kind of a nugget, kind of a topic we haven't touched on yet, which is the Belter Creole. I don't think we talked about it too much, if at all.
We did, actually, yeah.
We talked about it a little bit.
Some.
But my nugget was kind of like, there was a cool video that the creator of the Creole for TV had on YouTube. I think it was like it's like the dude in a bar, just like everyone's sitting around drinking beers, and someone like recorded with with their phone. Did you guys see that one? I put it in the show notes.
Yeah, we watched it. We talked about it when we did the season 1 show. Yeah, totally. That was an awesome video. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I couldn't remember that if we talked about it or not. But he mentions Haitian Creole as one of the languages that was used to kind of like inform the language of Belter Creole. And it just so happens that I speak a bit of it because I spent some time there. And one of the interesting things about Haitian Creole is that it was so Haiti was a former slave colony to the French, and these slaves were being brought over to Haiti and were not allowed to speak their languages, and so they developed a patois of French to be able to speak a language that the slave masters didn't understand. And so,
just like Jamaica, yes.
Exactly. And so I feel like that's a really interesting layer to the Belter Creole, where like it almost certainly was a patois that developed out of making sure that the earther dickheads that they felt were oppressors wouldn't be able to understand them. And I really like that that element to that faction. So it's just a little nugget out there.
That's interesting. I I had assumed that because of the sound of it, it was more like, like a bad game of telephone as like the generations
Right.
like, went on and were more separate from Earth and Mars, that like the way words are pronounced, spelled, all that stuff just kind of like,
Smears.
the,
Yeah.
like people hear like things phonetically or whatever, and down the line it gets changed a little bit until it becomes what it is. That's what I always thought, but
And that's definitely that, as well as
yeah,
maybe another layer.
yeah.
I like it.
But them's my nuggets, or that's my singular nugget.
No, that was a killer nugget, man. That's as a nugget should be. Very well done.
As a nugget connoisseur.
Nugget connoisseur.
Rating?
Yeah, I'll go first, man. I'm gonna give this. This is tough. I'm wanting to be more generous and say B minus, but my heart's really on a C plus. And I think it's, I don't know. I guess I'll say B minus.
Nah, stick
It
with
was-
C, man. That's fair.
Okay, fine. C plus. It was good. Great story elements. I know this is just pushing us along to the next thing. So I don't know. It was definitely a little weird having everybody on the planet, But I thought the locations were cool. It definitely made it look alien-esque, I don't know. I wasn't like wowed by it, but it was, I was into it for sure.
So if I remember correctly, seasons 1 and 2 were like a B plus for you, and then season 3 was an A, and then this is a C plus ish. Is that right?
Yeah, seasons 1 and 2 were like a B plus or an A as well. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
3 was an A. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think this is the best of the bunch for the show for sure. It's funny. It's my least favorite book and my most favorite show season. So it seems like all of my opinions are like completely inverse to your guys' views and the.
They
Yeah.
are. And you gave 3 a D, which I was blown away by. I think Ben was too. And it's like so much better than this season.
Yeah. So it's just straight up. It's similar to my comment about like the Basia Katoa thread being pulled out of this season. So like, I definitely think Ben's correct in the whole like they had enough motivation, they didn't need that thread. But because my first exposure to this universe was in the books, like I'm always going to have the books, holding that primary place. Like that's my frame of reference. So the book 3 was way better than the season 3, and so that's why season 3 was a D. It's got nothing to do with the season in terms of how it is as television. But yeah, for this one for me, like I gave season 1 and 2 a C, season 3 a D, and I'll give this one a B. And I'm looking forward to season 5.
I'm going to marry you there, Chad. This one's a B for sure. The fact that it seems like, kind of a filler, like a giant filler episode, and it doesn't have as grand of a scale of everything is the only thing that really detracts from the rating. Everything else was really good. The story was not the best thing, but the character development and character interaction and all that stuff was terrific.
Just to throw this out there, I know I've kind of said it many a time, but the way that this season ends, you can read books 1 to 4 and have zero chance of spoiling any of the future stuff. So if you are interested and are hankering for more Expanse and can't wait for the next thing, like I would super highly recommend circling back and maybe reading the books as a refresher before season 5 comes out. You won't regret it. But yeah, I can't recommend them enough.
Yeah, Bradna.
Yeah, Baratna.
So, algorithm, I love this part of the show. What are we talking about next?
It's a great question.
Absolutely.
I think we are talking absolutely about Cobra. Yep. Next week we're talking about Cobra. I've never seen Cobra.
Are you kidding me?
Never seen it, bro. I'm looking forward to you reenacting the whole thing.
I'm not going to do that.
You're in for a delight, man.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Sly, Flavor Flav's ex-wife.
Fuck yeah.
It's wonderful.
Lovely.
I kind of feel like Cobra is going to be like Raw Deal for me, where I had never seen Raw Deal, but had seen pretty much everything else Arnie had done up until then. So in the
It's definitely
Sly versus Arnie
Yeah, go ahead.
thing, this is my Raw Deal.
Well, it's very much their like.
Yeah,
This
it's
movie,
the
I would say,
parallel.
is it is right, Ben. I mean, it's like
Mhm.
this. The production values are about the same. I would say that this movie, well, it's tough, but probably has better actors.
Nice.
than Raw Deal. I mean, they did have Darren McGavin, which like blew my mind. But
Shooter McGavin's great.
yeah, Shooter McGavin was great. Shooter McGavin is Darren McGavin's son. But they wrap your head around that. So yeah, Cobra is definitely the equivalent of Raw Deal.
Nice. Looking forward to it.
And you'll appreciate that it's even based on a crappy book. And we'll get into that and more next week on the podcast, folks. So tune in for that.
Can
And
you please
until
be the
then-
person that says like, but the book instead of me on this next one?
Oh, I will. But the book, but the book. Anyway, folks, thanks for joining us. Tune in next week when we talk about the titular 80s classic Cobra with Sylvester Stallone. And until then, this is Kevin saying so long.
So yeah.
Laters.
And that's going to wrap up this week's episode, folks. Next week, we're going to be talking about the 80s titular classic Cobra, starring Sylvester Stallone. So stay tuned for that. You can find the show notes for today's episode in your podcast app of choice or at our website, ebd.fm/episodes/47. You can shoot us questions using the Twitter hashtag AskEBD. You can find me at Mulverine on Twitter. Chad is at ChadNormal on Twitter. Ben is at Jarhigo on Twitter. And now I'd like to take a minute and thank you so much for tuning into the show. It means loads to me and the boys. And if you'd like to support the show, there are a couple of great ways you can do it. First, obviously, is by rating and reviewing us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast nuggets. Secondly, you can tell somebody to check out the show. Word of mouth is incredibly powerful and incredibly important and incredibly effective. Thanks so much for tuning in, folks. We'll see you next time.